All right, we'd like to start the meeting, the regular scheduled meeting of the Oxford Building Committee on December 9th, 2021 at 10 a.m. The first order of business actually is to welcome our newest committee member, Marcy Minnick. Marcy was recently elected to the Board of Selectmen, and she is the Board of Selectmen's representative to the Building Committee. And she's also a parent of an Oxbridge student, or maybe more than one, I don't know. Welcome, Marcy.
Thank you. It's nice to see everybody's faces. I certainly know a lot of names, and then I know a lot of you personally as well, so it's great to be part of this committee. Yes, I do have two children at Oxbridge. Currently, I have a 5th grader and a 2nd grader, and we did go through the ELP program as well. So I've been in that building for a long time, and I'm really excited about this project. So you guys have done some great work. Every morning I pull in there. There's lots of stuff happening. The kids are really excited about it. So certainly I hope to be a resource for you guys, as well as somebody who could give some history. So thank you for supporting me through this and allowing me to be part of this committee.
For those in the building trades, I should add that Marcy is Chief Executive Officer of a defense contractor in Connecticut. So she'll know what she's talking about. The next item of business is to approve the minutes of our November 11th meeting. I hope you all had a chance to look at them. Are there any corrections, changes, additions?
How are your water users today?
Is someone speaking? I didn't. If there are no changes, could I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Yep, I'll motion to approve as presented, Duke.
Well, Katie beat you to it, but I'll take you as a second if you would.
I will second that. Thank you.
All in favor, please either raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Our next item of business is to talk about the payment application number 11 for the work done in the month of November. I'm going to turn that over to David and George.
Okay, the current application, we're going like 2,692,890. Just walking through it quickly. Capasso Enterprises, that's just the balance of the slabs that we poured in the upper main levels of A and B. Masonry is continuing with the masonry work. On the west side of B and C, that's complete. The south side of B, that's complete. In the courtyards, the masonry is complete. And currently they're working up here on the east side of B on the main level, and then just continuing kind of counterclockwise around the building, going to, and then once they see the B, they'll be into A. I'm looking to be finished with the masonry at the end of this month. Metal Fabrications, that's just stairs, the stair one, I believe. OWI, these are the hollow metal frames material in the main level. They've been delivered. Actually, GDS has been installing them. Also, they've wrapped the building, closed in the openings, for sort of protection. Roofing, pretty much finished the roofing itself on, and then all that remains is the metal coping, the cap on the metal coping. But the roofs, they've been flashing, detailing, they put in the walking pads, all of that, spray fireproofing, that's just continuing. That's in the lower level A, main level A as well. Aluminum storefronts, they've started setting window frames in the courtyard on the, I guess, the west of C and actually the east as well. And they've been setting frames, putting in glass, and they've started, pretty much completed in C and started, in area B with the windows. Gypsum board, continued framing as part of the lower level. That framing's complete, and they started framing on the main level, B, C, and then also in A, like the ad area. Flooring, that's just materials deliveries. That's being stored in their warehouse. Fire protection, they have pump delivered. It's in the pump room, and then they've been just continuing roughing in the pipe. HVAC, the major equipment in the boiler room, the water room, those have all been delivered, set on the pads. They started piping, and then same with the rooftop equipment. The majority of the equipment has been set on the curbs on the roof. Not this weekend, but the following weekend, they'll come in, and I think they have one more air handling unit to set on the roof, and a couple of condensers, and then all the rooftop units will be complete, will be set. Electrical, well, actually, I said plumbing, just the rough-ins in the lower level, that's complete. They've started continuing rough-ins on the main level. Same with electric. They actually have all the gear, the transfer switch for the generator, that's in the main electrical room. And actually, with the primary from Eversource being fed, they started put together the gear, and then also doing all the roughing in the walls and all of that on the lower level, and then the main level, BC, and part of A. Communications, that's just all the rough-ins in the walls. Looks like today, tomorrow, we'll have our in-wall inspections from the building committee. From the building department and the fire, and then we're scheduled to start sheetrocking on the lower level Tuesday, Wednesday next week. We did get a delivery of sheetrock the other day as well. And Sean's lawn, not too much this month. We've just been finishing up some storm sewer on the east side, and some retaining wall, block walls. And then that's it as far as our GCs, and then utility company charges, which is the generator and some fuel. And actually, last week we pulled the generators off site, so we're not running any generators. We're just getting it from the primary feed from Eversource. That's it for the billing.
George, over the Christmas holiday, what days do you guys not work?
The 24th and the 31st.
So it's just those 2 Fridays?
Correct.
Thank you. Any more questions for George or David on this report? Therefore, hearing none, I'm going to make a motion to approve the payment application number 11 as presented to the committee in the amount of $2,692,890.45. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Rusty. Is there any further discussion concerning this pay application? Being none, I will ask then all in favor to either raise their hand or signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion is carried.
Thank
All
you.
right, George, do you want to carry us through the progress report for what happened in November?
Yes.
And what's going on?
Yeah, as far as, the current schedule, that remains, showing substantial completion in the academic in May, landscaping, same in May, and then assembly, substantial completion May 2023. So that has not changed. The academic wing percentage, 68%, site work landscaping, approximately 73%. Budget-wise, there is some potential costs that were added. I'll go through that later. We'll go down through the budget, and then also construction costs, and our contingency, still pretty healthy with the contingency, the construction contingency and the allowances. We're at about $1,194,794. And then as far as out of scope changes, which is the owner's contingency, our potential shows 123,965. Adjustments to landscaping. Actually, that was during the GMP process, so I'll be writing a change order for that for next month. Electric security, these are still being reviewed. The communication conduit for the temporary service from the existing building to the new. The lockdown system, which we had a meeting about, that's still under review. And then the platform stair blocking, same thing, still under review. SLAM gave us some comments. I forwarded those to the general trades, and we're still waiting for it to go back. And then the approved changes were, 247,570, and that hasn't really changed from last month on the approved. As far as in scope, which is basically which is our contingency, the construction contingency, 391,825. Potential is like 293. Half of that, or about half of that's primary electrical feed, which we've been reviewed, kind of go back and forth with SLAM. I did get their comments back this morning on it. And then sanitary sewer invert elevations, that's being reviewed as well. Schedule, this is when we had the option 2 on the schedule, changing the substantial completion date of the academic building. So those are potential costs associated with that. And then I did plug in some potential costs for winter protection, which wasn't shown on or planned in the original schedule. So that's potential costs. Then as far as approved, our contingency, we're at about 77,200. So what's potential in our contingency? The majority of that, I think, is it's been approved. And as far as
George, before you go on, could I just go back and ask a question about the outer scope changes, which you were saying affect our contingency, the owner's contingency? The big one looks to be, if I'm wrong on it, right on this, is the lockdown system.
Yeah, and that's a potential. So this was, we had the PR 16, which showed the lockdown system during bid. It was a named or a named vendor. The vendor didn't submit a bid at the time, so then it was revised, it changed to the Alertus system. So We did get the PR, which showed the scope of the alerted system. Ferguson gave us a number, to use the alerted system. And actually, we carried an allowance, but this was quite a bit larger than the allowance. So
Right.
we kind of had a meeting with Mike Lynch and Dr. Adley. Well, not Dr. Adley, but Mike Lynch and the security consultant, Slam's security consultant, and found that the two things. Ferguson kind of overstated the change, and then the scope increased quite a bit from the original bid. So Mike went back and is working with the security consultant to basically just change it back to the scope, back to the original bid scope. And then, once we get those revisions, then we'll send it off to Ferguson for the pricing.
So it would appear that this is probably not going to be as large when we get to all said and done.
No, I think once it's all said and done, it'll be quite a bit different.
Okay. So a lot of this stuff is still potential. Thank you.
Correct. Yep. And then as far as schedule, as I was saying, the schedule, basically, same as last month, keeping the substantial completion of the academic wing to May 2022, and then the assembly May 2023. Well, that really has not changed. So the photos, this is like we're looking in the southeast corner, looking out. So actually, since this has been bricked up, and now the mason's working on this elevation, and then it's going towards kind of working his way counterclockwise. And then this is the retaining wall that Sean Zalon's been working on, and then they've since got it up to about this elevation, and now they're starting to put in some yard drains and all of that. This is kind of in the southwest corner, if you will, looking out this way. And as you can see, the brickwork's all complete. This is actually stair tower 2, so the penthouse to the roof, or stair to the roof, and then this is going to be metal siding.
George, are those units that are sitting outside, those are going to go on the rooftops?
Yes, those are the condensers that I believe are on the rooftop. This is insulation.
Right. No, I just thought I was referring to the first ones over there on the left. That's it.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Those are,
Thank you.
the condensers that are on the roof, and then that's just the generator that has since left. We're kind of on the west, looking towards C. So you can kind of see, we're looking this way. Actually, the existing school is like right here. And so the brickwork's been done, and now they've since put in some of the window frames and the glass. Start with the glass. And then these areas, that's just like the AVB, but eventually that will be metal siding that goes in between the windows, if you will. And then now we're looking in the courtyard on this west elevation of actually east elevation, I guess, of C in the courtyard. And then you can see them starting to install window frames, and then the brickwork being done in the courtyard. And then they've since completed all the brickwork in the courtyard. So all this brickwork and then the brickwork over along here has been completed as well. Now we're in the northeast corner, the top corner. So this is like the admin area in A. This is like the ELP B area, you know, A and B. So they said that actually they've since put in all the AVB, and they're probably bricked up to right, kind of like right here down. They're bricking, and now they're set staging, and they're continuing with the brick work. And then now we're down in the lower level. A, this is the main electrical room. See, they set the gear and they're starting, you know, pull the wire and started terminating. This behind the cardboard is actually the transfer switch for the emergency generator. So they're doing that. This is in the room for the domestic water. So this is all the domestic water service coming in behind, and these are the pumps for the domestic water. Now we're kind of inside the building. You know, in this south, in this corner, looking, you know, looking down. Actually, we're on the lower level. So, no, I'm sorry, we're on the upper level, kind of looking down. And that's just the framing, you know, starting the framing and overhead, all that. Say, kind of on the upper level, main level, and we're looking down towards A. Like I said, we've been framing, we've since set the door frames. Still same thing. Corridor going into this is the temporary partition, you know, eventually this is where the gymnasium building will be. So we had to put in temporary partitions, temporary sheathing, and then this area beyond that will be the offices. And then we're in like the ELP room. So we finished kind of the slab, kind of on the south end looking north. We call it the slab. So next week we'll be starting to finish up the spray fireproofing and all that in that area. But they have since put in all the hangers and everything ready for the spray fireproofing. This is the, I guess, the main entrance, so near the main entrance. Over there. And that's it. Any questions?
All right, hearing none. Thank you, George. I have put forth, or I sent out to everybody a proposed schedule of our meetings in 2022. I basically just took the second Thursday of every month. And I continued with the virtual meetings, at least until we know that the pandemic has passed us and we can then reassess going back to some live meetings, which probably would be helpful at least sometime during the year. Live meetings, and also to follow through with what Katie and Duke were talking about last meeting, which was another site visit, which would be helpful for the committee members and also for all the newly elected officials in town who haven't had a chance to maybe see the progress that's going on with the school. So with this, this is just a proposal. If anybody finds some, I made certain that there were no, at least national holidays included in these numbers. I didn't have a school calendar, so I couldn't always figure out whether I was in a school recess or not. But if there's any comments, I'd be happy to hear them. Otherwise, I'd look for your approval. We have to sort of, if we set a regular meeting schedule, then we don't have to have special meetings. Special meetings have a different, we can't change the agendas on special meetings. On a regular meeting, we can. So.
Okay,
Any-
John, this is Diane. Just a question on the time. Just is that 10 a.m.? We have a quorum now. It seems to have been working for us in the past. When we first started our committee, we were all in person, meeting early morning. Has there been any discussion of a different time? That's all. Again, it may be working. We stick to it, but I thought it might be valuable to raise it.
Anybody have any thoughts? Yeah, we were originally at very early in the morning. You're right, Diane, because we're meeting in person. We're trying to accommodate a number of people who are commuting to New York. But since that time, we've been, with the luxury of virtual meetings, we've been trying to do it at the 10 o'clock time, but I'm open to any suggestion. I don't hear any suggestions. Well, if I could ask for a show of hands, if we approve this as a meeting schedule for 22. Yes, Katie.
Sorry, I just have one other point, and recognizing if I'm in the minority, it's no problem. I do have a standing meeting exactly these dates, also once a month, that I've been in conflict this whole year. So I just thought I would throw it out there if it didn't matter to anyone else, if we did a first Thursday or a third or something else. But if this is what works for everyone, I will make myself available.
So you've been in conflict with all of our meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you should have spoken up. I didn't know.
Yeah,
We can't do the fourth meeting, the fourth Thursday, because that's the OPC meeting, and we would not have Duke and a couple of other people involved.
And that Kip, just so you know, we just voted on our meeting schedule. We're moving that meeting to Wednesday at 9. So that doesn't then conflict with Thursdays.
Oh, the OPC meeting. Okay.
Yeah. And then the only other thing, I'm always an early meeting morning person, but usually on every other Thursday is a subcommittee meeting of the Board of Ed, but they are usually 8:30 and they're usually well done by 9. So there's no real Board of Ed conflict, just FYI.
Okay, and I know we have the OAC meetings twice a month, and I believe they're on the first and third Thursdays. Am I right on that one, David?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, yes, because that was the time for the pay application process, right?
And I think this meeting was based on the pay application process too. So I would look to George for information about that. If a third Thursday of the month might be too late, first Thursday of the month might be too early.
Or perhaps, to Diane's point too, maybe just a time change.
Exactly.
Katie, what time works for you? 9 or 11?
Yeah, it's just this just Thursday at 10 is just when I'm double booked, so I'm happy to do anything else.
So the only note that I can see of all of those dates for the school calendar is the April date is just a recess date. That's all. But other than that, it doesn't impact me. But other than that, it's the school vacation week.
The April 14th.
Yeah.
Is and Duke, you mentioned that the Board of Ed has a meeting is it Thursday mornings?
Yeah, like we usually have facilities or policy. This morning we had facilities at 8:30, which we're usually done by 9:30. So I think we can work around that. I mean, if 9 o'clock works for everyone, and Katie's a key ingredient here going forward as we get into furniture, fixtures, and setting up the school. So I'm fine with a 9 o'clock start if that works for everyone.
The only thing I'd offer is if you could do the 11, because I'm in the heat of it, getting everything up and running every morning. So the 10, I'm the only person, but by the dust settles a little bit for me by 10, 11. So if you want to do the 11.
You can't multitask that, Luke, like you've been doing else?
I'll Zoom from the parking lot. Would you like me to do the parking lot live?
Zoom from
we'll turn on the site camera, and everyone can see you running around the parking lot chasing.
Give me a drone. Give me a drone and I'll just kind of do this.
Well, we could always move it to 11. I mean,
11's tough for me. It's kind of middle of the day.
why doesn't everybody do this? Why, those people who have different points of view or different needs, send me an email. I'll try to aggregate it all together and see what we can come up with, if there's any change.
Thanks, Kip.
Otherwise, we've got to basically set our schedule for the town purposes within a couple weeks here. Okay. So if people who have either timing issues or calendar issues, please just get them all into me, and I'll aggregate them together and see what we can come up with. Okay. Very good.
Kip, one quick thing. George, can we get the OAC meeting calendar? Can you put that together?
Sure. Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay, so today, what is going to take up most of our time is the item number 6, which is the presentation of the furniture and fixture package and budget, and the technology and telephone equipment package and budget. I want to say that the original budget on these items was estimated in August of 2020. And what we did was, the telephone system was based upon $1 per square foot of building size, 109,000. And the furniture budget was based upon $1,500 per student. And at that point in time, we had put in 528 students, but the actual enrollment, the high point of enrollment should have included the ELP. So it actually should be up at 578. The other part of this is that the building, as we constructed it, remember we were faced with a building that was on a very constrained site, and that to have any expansion capability, we almost had to build it in today because we weren't going to have many opportunities to add on as maybe a Royal School or a Henley School, which had the land to do it. So we built a school which has a design capacity of, I believe it's including the ELP of 760 students, that includes 48 in the DLC, 616 K through 5 plus DLC, and then 144 for early learning. Obviously, if we take those number of potential seats, it's a much bigger number than we had before. However, it turns out that our technology and telephone budget estimate was way too high. I'm not going to go into all the details because the people who are going to present will show it to you, but I wanted to give you that trade-off that from what was estimated back in August of 2020, and here we are today trying to finalize this, or finalize the estimate and then go out to bid. With that, I'm going to turn this over to Amy, Amanda Hastings, and Mark D'Agostino.
Thanks, Kip. And if I'm allowed, can I just share my screen without someone needing to? Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Am I sharing? Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
So thank you very much, Kip. And as Kip mentioned, I do have other experts here with me today. Amanda Hastings, who you've all met in the interior design of the building, is also the furniture and what we call FF&E, furniture, fixtures, furniture, and equipment. And so she's put together a really wonderful package of furniture after meeting with Luke and his team. And also with us is Mark D'Agostino. Mark is in charge of putting together the technology equipment package, which, as Kip mentioned, also includes telephone system. And he's worked directly with Jeff Adams in the district and gotten a lot of feedback from him almost on a daily basis with coordinating that equipment package. So any technical questions, I would say let's go to Mark. But first I'm going to run through some of those budget items and exactly what Kip was describing, just so that we have an understanding of the budget moving forward and the schedule moving forward. So on the screen here, you see the schedule. We are seeking approval from your committee today. If you approve the packages as we've designed them, we will then go to the Board of Education next week and seek their approval. The state requires signatures of building committee chair, Board of Ed chair, and superintendent in order for us to be seen by the CGR for their plan review. We do have meetings scheduled with them for next week on the 15th and the 16th for each of the packages in the hopes that we receive approval from both of your committees as scheduled. We'd like to get that in before the holidays is essentially what we're trying to do, so that we can send everything out to bid and to pricing by state contract as soon as January for a procurement in, or I should say, for bidders to come back to us by February or end of February, and then for the procurement process. There is a longer than usual lead time, as you might expect, on some of these items because of COVID. There's also some higher pricing on some of these items because of COVID. So we'll describe that as we go through. And by the way, this package, the documentation does also include, as you can see on the screen, the furniture for phase 2 of construction, which we're asking the bidders to bid on now and hold their prices and then install in May of 2023. So reiterating Kip's point about the furniture budget, this is a clip at the top of the page from the construction documents budget back when the building was bid out. You can see that incorrectly the budget for furniture was listed at 528 students. It should have been 578, which is the state allowable number of students based on maximum enrollment. So the budget line item is 792 for furniture. The telephone system, as Kip described, budget line item is 109, and the technology equipment budget line item was $924,800. As luck would have it, the combination of lines 14 and 15 here, telephone and technology, exceeds what is required after working with Jeff Adams on the technology equipment. So there's a surplus in these line items when, and we've run into that the furniture equipment line item is too low. So you can see described here at 528 students, a budget of 792, but our estimate is coming in at 1.187. The delta is $395,000 that we would need additional for furniture. If the budget was set at the 578 students, the estimate would still be high, and we would need $320,000 toward that. As mentioned, the design of the building is in fact enough for 760 students in seats in all of the 9 ELP classrooms, the 4 kindergarten classrooms, 4 each for grades 1 through 5, and 2 DLC classrooms. So again, the total number that we're designing for is 760 students and providing furniture in all of those spaces. And for that, we're coming in relatively on budget. If we had a budget of $1,500 per student at 760, the budget would have been $1,140,000. Even with the sort of increase in prices that we see for COVID, we're coming in at 1.187 for a delta of 47,000. That just speaks to how much we need to either get from contingency or from the surplus in the technology equipment budget, which, as you can see in the bottom line of this sheet, we have a surplus of $240, approximately $1,000 in the estimate for technology equipment. So hopefully utilizing that 241,000 against the delta of 395, we're really asking for about $150,000 additional to what's in the CD budget, and hoping that that can be covered by some of your contingency. This is just an explanation of the number of seats, designed capacity in the building. You can see across the first column is each of your grade levels, and the dedicated DLC rooms, number of students, total capacity in each, and the total that we're designing for, as compared to the number that we're showing as allowable number of students based on state enrollment and allowable calculations. So that's just sort of supporting what Kip had described to you. And moving forward, I wanted to let you know what is included in the furniture bid documents. So we'll go to bid with office furniture, other miscellaneous admin furniture, bookcases, library bookcases or stacks, chairs throughout the building, classroom chairs, classroom desks, lounge furniture that's essentially in the ELP commons, in the learning commons outside of each classroom or grade level, and in the library media center. Music furniture, phys ed and OTPT items, area rugs, that's for each class, storage, essentially for back of house spaces, some metal storage, and tables, classroom tables, and cafeteria tables. There's a mix of how we're going to bid these, some by state contract and some will go out to bid. Certain pieces we want to really control and make sure that you get what's being designed, and others we can go out to bid because we know more than one supplier might be able to bid on them, and we can get tighter numbers. So today's estimate is at the 1.187 number that I described on the earlier pages. That's for furniture. For technology equipment, what is included in that package are network switches, your wireless access points or WAPs, often seen in the ceilings or attached to the ceiling, the phone handsets as mentioned, the UPS boxes, which keep your network up and running in case of a power outage, AV systems for the classroom. This is a piece that we had moved into the technology equipment budget at some point during construction documents. Display monitors, which are generally in the conference rooms, and charging carts. So there will be one charging cart for each classroom. Does anyone have questions on what's included in either of these packages?
Hey, Amy, it's Duke. Where are the smart boards for the classrooms? Where are they included?
They are in line PE05, classroom AV system.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
That's really
Amy,
the
could
most.
you explain again the difference between the public contract, the state contract versus bidding? I don't fully understand what the difference is and why we would select one versus the other.
Sure. So I'll actually have Amanda and Mark speak up on exactly why certain portions of each of our packages will go one way or the other, but I'll describe the difference. In public bid, we will be putting out a basis of design and specifying the equipment or the furniture with a basis of design, and then a couple of other allowable manufacturers. And they'll compete with one another, and so you're really going to get the tightest or the least value, you know, the best bid numbers. For state contract pricing, the manufacturers have already put a bid number into the state, and so they are essentially already giving a sort of a discounted price so that people can go select off of state contract and take advantage of that better pricing that the manufacturer has given for the state. And in that way, we don't have to do a basis of design and 2 other manufacturers. We can just select one manufacturer and know exactly what the project's going to get. So that's important for some packages where, especially in the technology equipment, you might want to make sure that it matches what's already in the district. And for furniture, there's other reasons. And so I'm going to ask Mark, while I have this page up, to describe why certain packages are going to public bid and why some are going to the state contract.
Sure. Basically, on top of what you said, Amy, these items that are going out to public bid are not available on state contract. These specific manufacturers that are needed aren't on state contract, so we have to go out for a public bid. The displays, AV displays are on state contract, so we're going to utilize the state contract pricing. The classroom AV systems, although they are on state contract, bid contracts, the state mandates that anything over $100,000 be publicly bid. So we do have to go out for a public bid on the classroom technology.
And thank you for that explanation. And just, sorry, just to follow up on that, I assume that the documents are written in such a way you're going to get exactly what you want and need. But if there were a circumstance where a bid came in and we were unhappy for whatever reason with that offering, but it was the lowest bid, are we obliged to go with that?
Sure, that's a great question. What we will do is, especially with the switches, the network switches, wireless access points, the phones, those need to be a specific manufacturer. So we'll prepare sole source letters for the district to sign off on. We'll bring those sole source letters up to the state to be approved, that we could go to sole sources for the manufacturers on these devices. And that's typically approved by the state. They have no problem with that as long as it's on the district letterhead. And then we'll get multiple vendors to bid on those manufacturers to get exactly the systems that you want and that are needed.
Perfect, thank you.
Hey, Amy, this might not be the right time, but it just popped into my head. I was thinking through this, in terms of equipment. You've got cafeteria tables here, but I think of what we're looking at now and using contingency dollars. Where does the kitchen supply and appliances, and I know a lot of work was done on that early on, and we've got a vendor in Chartwells that may have input or have dollars to put in, and where is that process? Is there an escalation in cost in the kitchen equipment? And you may say it's not you know, not for this conversation, but it's just something that I jotted down.
That's okay. I'm happy to report that that equipment has already been bid and it's within the ONG AP project. So
Great.
that kitchen equipment, the commercial kitchen equipment, is a part of what's already gone out to bid.
Thanks, Amy.
Sure. So that was an easy one. Amanda, do you want to speak up and describe why some of the furniture is coming out, going to be available on state contract and others will go out to bid?
Yep. It's sort of similar to what Mark said, where some items are on state contract and some of them aren't. Typically with bidding, in normal situations, you do get more competitive pricing. So a lot of times we like to do as much bidding as possible just because it really does bring down the cost. We do extra work in the front specifying. So when we have that basis of design of that product that we picked, whether it's like a teacher desk or student chairs, we select two other what we consider equals, and that is what they can bid on. They can't just provide any options. So we really do control the bid by making sure that we are providing exactly those three options ahead of time, that we know everything is vetted through us before vendors bid on things. We also control that, as you see here, because we have all of these categories. That's another way that we control what we're getting, so that vendors will only bid by category. That way, when you're awarding them, you can sort of decide if you want to award, certain categories. That way they don't have to bid the whole package. It gets a little bit more convoluted when you're trying to bid the whole thing as a whole package. So breaking it up into these categories really does help organizing it, reviewing it, and then selecting the right bidders. Using state contract right now, it's a little bit different because of this COVID situation, where prices are going up probably as soon as January 1st. A lot of manufacturers are having price increases just because of this supply chain issues and shipping issues. But with state contract, those prices are set for a certain amount of time, so they can't increase the prices. So normally a state contract is a little bit more expensive than bidding. So we try to bid because of that price. But right now it's kind of an unknown of if those state contract prices will actually be better prices than what they can bid just because it's set. So it's a little bit of trying to control that. So certain ones like the office furniture, we've worked with a vendor to really get exactly what we need for those offices. And we know that those are on state contract, that those prices will stay as we estimated them because they are on state contract. So we just felt comfortable with going with some of them as state contract. Other things like the classroom chairs, which we really worked with the school. Diane and Katie, you guys know that we sat down with you guys and looked at all those colors and coordinated it with the whole furniture package. So to make sure that we do get exactly what we wanted for those, because they do coordinate with the accents of the school, the way everything looks, the height, sizes, that those ones really do make sense to go on state contract because we get exactly what we want instead of putting it out to bid, which if you put something like that out to bid, all of a sudden you might get a low bidder that really only has 4 color options. And then it's sort of starting that design process over again of looking at like what makes sense, and it doesn't quite work. So there are certain ones that really do make sense to do state contract. But truly, the bulk of mostly everything is just going to bid. Some items like the phys ed, OTPT, area rugs, those kind of things aren't necessarily on state contract. So those ones are bid.
Good information. So I do have a little presentation of the furniture that's been selected. As Amanda mentioned, we met with Diane and with Katie. We met with Luke and a number of his staff members as we worked through that too. And did somebody have a question?
I had one question. I'm sorry. One question was on the, you showed the technology and telephone budget at one place 792,000, but down here it shows at 742. I'm not sure. Was there just a math error here?
Amy, I think you had a typo in your previous page.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That 9 should be a 4.
Even better.
So we have a little more room, right?
We do.
Hey, just a quick question for Amanda. There was a threshold on the technology side of anything over 100,000 has to go out to bid. Is that similar on the FF&E, or
Yeah.
does not come into play?
So a lot of where you see it's state contract or bidding, some of that's actually broken down by vendor. So ones that might be over 100,000 are actually broken up. So 2 different vendors are providing them. Or ones where it's bid and state contract, that number, because it's broken up between the 2 of them, will bring it down.
Great. Thanks, Amanda.
Yep.
And one more quick question on the bidding. Amy, you mentioned earlier that we're doing this in 2 bids. One for, we're doing bidding everything at once, but delivering part of the furniture now and the remainder a year following or so. And just if you could just talk for a sec about the whether that's what you would do under normal times, or that has to do with us being in COVID now and being nervous about future pricing, or whether that's just a practical way to do a phased project furniture bid.
So it is a case-by-case basis and probably depends on the duration of construction. But in this case, a year between the 2 phases and only having 2 phases makes it more comfortable for me to do it this one way in one grouping, because we're not really asking the vendors to hold too much for too long. Your second phase has far less furniture in it. It essentially is the music classrooms, the gym, and the cafeteria tables. So when a vendor is bidding, well, in this case, we're going off of state contract for the cafeteria tables, they just know when the delivery date is. And so it's really looking ahead for the music furniture and biz ed and cafeteria tables. It's much a smaller package for phase 2 than it is for phase 1. And then secondly, sometimes, and in the case of the music room furniture, this might be the case, we want to make sure that the chairs match from room to room, and manufacturers might discontinue a certain desk or chair. So we want to be able to buy it all at once and put the responsibility on them to store it so that it matches the rest of the school.
Amy, does these dollars include that potential storage holding costs associated with anything like that?
It does in the bid estimates, because Amanda has actually talked to all the vendors in preparing these estimates. Amanda, I'm not sure how that works for state contract.
A lot of these, they actually don't necessarily buy them right now, just because of that. So with most of the items, especially for your particular project, where it is the music furniture, the cafeteria, the gym, none of that stuff usually gets discontinued or changes. It's sort of standard stuff that they've had for years and will have for years. So a lot of times they actually won't purchase it until closer to the date of delivery. And as Amy said, since it's such a short amount of time in a year, if you count back with months, then they're ordering it probably next February or so. They probably won't likely store it. And a lot of times they have their own warehouses anyway, so it doesn't actually cost them money to store it. So that's not really a big issue that we took into consideration in the budget.
So we really should not be any additional costs associated with storage or anything like that. It's kind of all inherent in this.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
If they do wait to purchase, though, doesn't that put us at risk for any cost increases with this crazy COVID environment? Or
I think as long as you have the purchase orders now, that sort of is set for them. That it's one of those things where they want to get the project. So as long as you're putting in the purchase order, they have it on state contract. You're sort of buying it now and holding that. If it were to wait until next year, they might not win that. So I think that's sort of an incentive for them. That's sort of the game that they play with that state contract.
Right.
Got it. Thanks.
Amy, can I just be clear with the number of units you're talking about here on the last slide? I think you're talking about the over 700 number, correct?
That's correct.
Right, because right away when we open up here on 2023, we'll be hitting the 600 number. Okay.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
So to that point, Amy, just Alan asked the question. I was thinking what the proposal on the table is, and I think Kip, what you and I talked about yesterday, is we're furnishing this for that total capacity number of 760.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay.
Right. You know, if there's trouble in allowing for the $140,000 or $150,000 of contingency to supplement this, the overage on the furniture budget, one of the ways that we can control that is to simply not fit out one of the classrooms, two of the classrooms, 10, you know, however many, just to provide enough for day one when you get into the school.
Yeah.
So
No.
for example, you won't have, maybe, I don't know, but as of our discussions during design, it didn't sound like you would have all 9 classrooms full of ELP. So
Right.
if needed to control the budget, we could choose to not furnish, you know, a few
Yeah.
of the
I think, Alan, from a Board of Ed perspective, it makes no sense not to fully furnish that building as we go into a next set of renovations on 3 schools. We've had 41 net increase at Oxford alone in terms of new students. So, from a Board of Ed perspective, we're going to have to shift or move over time classes and kids, new projects where people will be moving down. So, this makes total sense from a Board of Ed perspective.
Great.
Good.
Great. So
Amy, just one question before we leave. The earlier we talked about the enrollment versus design capacity, and I thought you mentioned something about the state would make eligible. The eligibility of these expenditures would be based upon what? And I thought you said it would be based upon our maximum enrollment projection.
So that's the case for the building size. We will have to wait and see how they react next week to the full quantity of furniture, and whether some of that may be ineligible for their reimbursement, which is approximately a 10% factor on your project. But what I meant by the 578 is that's the number of students that we based our enrollment allowable area on for the building. And so you might recall that the building is over the state's allowable area. So your reimbursement from the state is reduced slightly based on the amount of square feet of the building that is in excess of the allowable area, which is a calculation of square feet per student.
Right. So that'll affect all of our eligible construction costs as well.
That's correct. So as you get reimbursed by the state, they just adjust the percentage of reimbursement based on the allowable area.
Well, we originally said that of our entire costs, whatever they will be, we were estimating that 5% would not be eligible. But here we ought to be probably upping that percentage to a higher number, maybe 12% or something, to reflect the fact that we're overbuilding today because we can't build in the future. Okay, it helps us to try to figure out, because the question's always being asked by our finance people, how much are we going to actually get back?
That's right. Right. So we'll actually find that out when we meet with the state and Barbara reacts to the project. I'm going to present it as all eligible because.
Of course you are.
Yeah, that's in our best interest. And then we'll see.
Amy, do you need any, I don't know whether it helps. I mean, having been up there a few times, some extra information sometimes doesn't help, but is there anything you need in that, we're moving forward and forming a building committee on 3 additional school renovations where we may have to be moving classrooms, and we've got 300 to probably 400 new apartments coming online in the next 2 to 3 years in town. And so, I think we've done the right thing all along in terms of building in capacity and flex space. And I don't know if that any of that information helps in the conversation up there.
So that it won't hurt, but I
Okay.
think that the state's position will be that the project reimbursement is based on the allowable enrollment at the time that the project grant was written. So I don't think it'll impact your eligibility, but I am hoping they take that into consideration and recognize that we're fitting out a few more classrooms. It's still worthwhile to do so.
Yeah, good.
And hopefully they won't cut that. We'll see. So I'm just going to run through a few slides to give you a flavor of the furniture that was selected. I presented this briefly at the Board of Ed meeting a few weeks ago already, but teacher furniture, they in fact, well, I should let Amanda, why don't you speak to this, but they selected a desk that doesn't have built-in storage, but rather a mobile file cabinet. But Amanda, I'll let you speak to these slides as I run through them.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. So this is sort of just looking at the overview of a lot of the backup furniture, just to note, is sort of neutral. We wanted to keep the color in the chairs and sort of keep as many of the other components neutral. So coordinating that all the laminate colors, all the paint colors, and sort of either a neutral wood tone and then just grays, and then you see the pops of color when you get to the kids' furniture. But just to know, I know I always say this, that when we're looking at furniture for schools, we know how important it is that this furniture does last a very long time. So we're very conscientious about durability, cleanability, and how that fits into the budget. So even though, we work on this budget, we really look at the best product that you can get for the best price. And having done this for 15 years, I feel like we're really good at making sure that, that teacher's chair is going to hold up. It's ergonomic, that it does move and adjust for you, but also that we know that the manufacturers will come in if there is any problem. Sometimes there's a fluke and an arm has an issue, but they will be on it with the vendors to make sure that they fix any of those issues if there are them. But we really do want to make sure that the furniture is going to stand the test of time for you guys.
Good overview. Thank you.
So
classroom furniture.
Yep. So here you can see, and we worked with Luke and Katie and Diane to really look at all of the colors for the furniture and go over all the bits and pieces of it to make sure that those colors coordinate with the accents that we have in the school, that everything is sort of coordinated and that they're sort of differentiated by grade and then utilized in the learning commons where we have a little bit of those accents that come in the corridors.
And there's a variety of seating offered to the students in that there's a separate group table that's different from the student desks. So that gets a different color, but also is a rocker rather than four-legged, fixed chair. Classroom tables.
Yep. Again, just neutral colors in the classroom tables so that we know a lot of times these rooms get shifted so that even if right now the way that we show them on plan works, we know down the road teachers sort of trade off or things change. So making them all neutral really helps with that flexibility so that all of a sudden you don't have tables that were color coordinated for one room shifted to another one and that it sort of looks more jumbled. So this way it just makes it so much easier to down the road, keep them all consistent and they can really be mixed and matched.
Right, and just so that everyone understands, the images on the screen are from the manufacturer's website. The colors on the right show that no matter which of these tables is installed in a certain room, they will have the maple laminate tops and the gray bottom for the metal legs.
And also to note, what we're showing here is mostly the basis of design. So like for example, the classroom tables are one that we are saying we could go out to bid because those ones are sort of not generic, but they're not something that really makes a big impact on the design. So that way, when you get them, the bid one, they might look slightly different. The leg style might be slightly different, but same quality, same colors, just here is what we are putting in the base of design, but it might be slightly different than what you see.
No one else will notice, just you. Other furniture that was selected and discussed that the teachers requested include more storage items for the classrooms and low seating options, and then also the classroom stool.
Yep, I don't have anything to add.
Okay. ELP and
Yep.
kindergarten.
And sort of the fun kid stuff. Again, neutral, most of it's all sort of wood tones. We know that the kids and the books and all of their stuff bring in a lot of color. So we didn't want to bring in a lot of color with the products. So we're basically keeping them all in the light wood tone.
Here's some color.
And it looks like a lot of color here, but really there's one large rug per classroom that they all use at the front of the classroom as their meeting space. So they sort of transition as they grow up in age from ELP, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and third grade. So they're all sort of the same tone where each kid has a seat, bringing in those colors, but also they're sort of organized here. So they're not too wild and crazy, we hope. And then each classroom just gets a secondary seating area where they do like reading and stuff in the classroom. And then just a couple different area rugs depending on what the specialty area is.
Music classroom is fairly standard, no matter what the grade level. The chairs are different for posture, so they're not the standard student chair. And then there's a lot of specialty storage equipment, as you might imagine.
Yep.
Hey, Amy, strange question, but literally just from looking at our upcoming budget and some capital needs around equipment and stuff like that, is there anything we need to think about for the stage in terms of risers or anything like that? Has that been part of a discussion? Only because we're looking at ordering risers, a second set of risers for the high school, excuse me, auditorium, instead of moving them from room to room. So I know we had a lot of discussion about that stage and that great room, but anything there we need to think about?
That's a good point. I don't think we've included risers in this project budget. I'm hoping that either the school has a set of risers that we're bringing over. Did we discuss that, Amanda?
We don't usually include risers because it is an issue with the state. They don't they either don't let us provide them, or they don't reimburse for them because of the ADA compliance. Usually they require that you have a ramp. So if there's risers that have a ramp, then all of a sudden it takes up the entire stage. It gets very expensive. So usually for us, we don't include them because it's easier for you guys to sort of procure on your own without going through the state.
So basically, keep the state out of it. We'll take care of it ourselves.
And we have,
yeah. Thank you, Amanda, for mentioning that.
And just for the record, we have relatively new risers. I'm anticipating that we bring the ones that are in good shape over.
Great.
And we will get to it. There's a set of chairs that we are providing as a part of this package for audience members, and that can be used and set up on the stage, or it can be used and set up in the gymnasium floor for audience, and stackable and with proper storage. So here's the art classroom. I don't think there's probably any questions on this.
Yeah, so just here's a good, sorry. One thing I was gonna say, if this is a good example of this art table, I know they have at Tokenique, and that was one that the art teacher specifically said that they really like, they want to use here. So that is something that we would get on state contract because we want to make sure that they get exactly what they want, since they know that it works for them.
Great. In the media center and in the exploration zone of the library media center, which is the makerspace, there's some specialty furniture. There's some lounge soft seating, and Katie and Diane helped us with selection of fabric for those. And anything else you need to add here?
No.
Okay. In the Learning Commons, there's also an opportunity for some fun seating choices and specialty furniture.
And these ones, again, as I mentioned, are color coordinated with those Learning Commons, since we do have the blue, the turquoise, and the green accents to define each of those Learning Commons. So then the furniture will sort of coordinate to enhance that accent color that we have.
Great. Administrative offices, I think Amanda actually already mentioned that these have really been thoughtfully designed to fit into the office spaces and to provide the right storage and forward-facing desk area needed for each of the principals and the ELP coordinator, those kind of rooms. Conference rooms. I think there's a more neutral chair selected here because we do have an accent wall with a pop of color in that room for a wall cover.
So again, coordinating, but just keeping it neutral so that the furniture is sort of a backdrop for everything else.
And this would be in teacher dining, waiting areas for adults in the main office, and then a side chair waiting area for students in the nurse's office.
And this is where we brought in a little bit more of that school blue. That's sort of where we have that accent of the Darien blue or the Oxbridge blue. So in those areas, we wanted to sort of reinforce that with the furniture really complementing that.
Excellent.
Amy, I'm not recalling any specific line items, anything. This all includes whatever's needed in the nursing rooms in terms of equipment or a day bed or something like that.
That's right. The cots are included. Even the curtain fabric between the cots was a selection that we went through with Diane and Katie.
They covered
covered everything.
Yep.
And a lot of that stuff, similar to appliances, we actually had in the construction package. So exam tables and cots, they're sort of a weird thing that's hard to bid because a lot of people can't bid them. So we put those in the construction package. So I think a lot of those were covered in that.
Great, thank you.
And then this is just sort of the some cafeteria gym. So we have those cafeteria tables. Again, those ones are on state contract. We know that we like the ones that have the little bit wider seats, that they're not the traditional round seats because they're a little bit more comfortable for students. So we want to make sure that we get those, as well as some of the other style of the cafeteria tables that they like for the school. And then, as Amy mentioned, the stacking chairs that we have for performances and bringing in outside public.
Right, and there was a request also for some student storage cubbies along one of the walls of the gymnasium. So Amanda found a great bench that they can use to change shoes or put bags in, and I think it'll be nice to organize everything against the wall instead of have a pile. And that's it. So, I mean, I do have these renderings where you can see the furniture that was selected and where it fits in. Examples like this, with nesting tables. All right.
Quick question. You're showing some of the sound baffles. I didn't think we were going to go ahead with those.
We do have sound baffles in the Library and Media Center. That was part of the base bid, Rusty. We looked at adding some to the Learning Commons as a part of our design revisit, let's say, after the bids came in favorably, but we ended up not putting them in. So here's an image of the Learning Commons, and right, there's no baffles. Any other questions? So we'd be seeking approval to put these packages, well, not out to bid yet, but to just allow us to bring these packages to the state for their review.
Okay, Amy, I just want to ask one last question. Again, the one for the technology and telephone, you'll be showing the is it the $743,000 number?
Correct.
Okay, and so that means that if I did my numbers right, the differential there is about $290,000 from the original estimate. And that compares to, I think you said $400,000, which our furniture budget is higher than original. So this, the delta down here should be what, 290, or should be actually be less.
I'm doing it right now on my calculator. Hold on.
No, this should be 290, and we're going to spend 390 more. So we're about $100,000 differential,
Correct.
which ain't bad considering we built a much larger school than we had for original enrollment. Okay. So by approving this, what we're really saying is the committee is prepared both to take away from the technology original budget, and subsidize more to the furniture, and to the extent that we're still short, we're basically saying we will go against the owner's contingency.
Right. So that's what we're looking for, your comfort level in doing that.
Okay. Well, I think the motion then is to, I'll make the motion, then we can have a discussion if there's any more discussion. I'll make a motion to approve the furniture package as presented with an estimated cost of $1,187,268, and to approve the technology and telephone equipment package as presented with an estimated budget of $200, and I believe it's $42,000.
742. Mm-hmm.
And as a result, the differential from the original budget of about $100,000 will need to be charged against the owner's contingency. I will so make that motion if there's a second.
I'll second that.
Diane seconds. Now, is there any discussion about this?
Quick question. When are we going to understand what the state is going to accept and not accept? Do you have any idea? You're presenting next week.
Correct. Wednesday, we have a 3-hour scheduled meeting with the state for furniture, and Thursday with the same amount, three hours with them for technology equipment.
Will they give you an answer then and there, or?
They will not commit to anything, but we will definitely be able to judge their response.
Okay. There's a lot of money on the table there.
Hey, Amy, could you just go back? I just want to have the right numbers here on, if I update the board. So that the furniture was $1,187,768. And what was the technology again? Look to.
I think it's $1,187,268 is furniture.
268. Yep.
And that technology equipment is $742,930.
Got it. Okay, good. Thank you.
And that's technology and telephone, Duke.
Yes. Yes. Thanks, Kip. Good.
And I'll correct this slide and have it to present on Tuesday night.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion as presented, please indicate by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Are there any abstentions? The motion is carried.
Thank you
Thank you
very
all
much.
very much.
Sorry, guys, I just have to
Kip,
jump
just,
off. I'll talk to you all soon.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie. Yes,
Quick-
Dan.
When that slide is changed, can you send that around to the whole committee?
Absolutely. I'll correct it and I'll put it up on the website and send a link.
Thank you.
Sure.
Now, I put item number 7 in, but I think that you've really answered that already. These are just the documents that the chair of the committee, the Board of Ed chair, and Dr. Adley have to sign in order for you to have the meeting next week with the state. And since the motion has passed for the approving the furniture and the technology budgets, we've basically satisfied all the requirements, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay,
So
so
that's just to make sure that, we're not representing anything that you're not aware of when we go to the state. And I know that some of you will actually be at the meeting with the state anyway, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there anything else that people want to discuss concerning the building project?
I have one quick item, and I know we're running over, so I'm going to be short, but just to follow up on what we raised last week with bringing some, potentially bringing some artwork into a few locations in the school. And I know that both Luke and Katie are very interested in working on this effort. And if I'd like to, put together kind of a small subgroup to kind of move this effort forward, probably starting in January. So if anybody else on the committee is interested in jumping in, please email me and I'll include you in that. And then also, Amy, if you could give us some indication as to the time frame, particularly on the wall covering that's already been bid into the project, and working with your interior designer on that, or graphic designer on that, sort of what the schedule is that, so we can organize our efforts to coordinate so nothing's delayed.
Sounds good. Amanda and I will talk with our graphic designer in the office and find out her availability. And so we'll let you know.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Is there anything else? There's no public comment, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Do I have a second? Dan seconds. I think we can all assume that everyone's in favor of adjourning, but I will ask for a yay vote. Yay.
Yay.
And I'm sure there's none. And I wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a happy holiday season if we don't talk to you sooner. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Skip.
Thank you. Nice
Thank
working with you, Amanda. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Duke, do you have time for a phone call after this? Duke pitched out too early. All right. Bye, everyone.
Amy, you're going to stay on.
I'm staying on, Ellen. Okay.
Thank you.
This conference will now be recorded.